and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Jade. She is my advanced tarot teacher, and I could go through the whole list of all the things that she does, but instead, I would like her to introduce herself. And before I do that, before we bring Sal on and we start our deep dive, because I know it's going to be that, I'd like to set an intention for today. And I have kind of a big one for today for us, Sal. I hope you're okay with that. My intention for today is that we can provide some massive support. I'm going to use the word support for our listeners, because I believe where we're going with our conversation today involves how do we support ourselves in our own healing journey when we're also holding space for others.
Yeah.
So that's my intention. Welcome, Sal.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It is wonderful to be here.
Will you please tell us a little bit about yourself? I was looking, you said something the other day that I saw one of your videos, and I read or heard you say you've helped over 90,000 students. I'm like, you're almost to the six figures of students.
I know. It astonishes me even sometimes. So I guess brief background. 15 years ago, I started my business as a clairvoyant healer, and I was doing quite lengthy sessions, like an hour and a half combined tarot and oracle cards with theta healing. And I was also reading tarot in a shop. And at some stage, I'd also managed psychics in a shop. Before that. And so I had a fair wealth of experience, and I'd been a teacher for many years, like a high school teacher. So I sort of was doing the following my heart's desire of how much I loved connecting with the tarot to help people and really feeling that, and as part of my clairvoyant healing sessions. And so I was really starting to get a name in its own right as a tarot reader as well as a healer. And I then basically took the whole business. I started teaching workshops, and then I took the whole business online with Udemy. And it just took off. I mean, it always sounds like it just took off, but actually it was a lot of hard work and many, many, many months of no pay from Udemy, and, like a lot of work of getting to the bestseller status and starting to tick the business over so that I could do it full time and start being online full time. And it really, that whole journey of suddenly going from, students and that I was teaching in workshops, just being online, and suddenly just having thousands and thousands, and the incredible, amazingly powerful connection. I always talk about how amazed I see when I suddenly see people on Facebook that I go, oh my God, they met in my Facebook group, and that's connected with Tarot Card Success, the private study group. They met there, and they're like hanging out together in LA, and she's from New York and she's from LA, and they met, especially because I live in Australia. So it's really, there's a lot of really good feel-good stuff that happens when you start reaching that range of students to teach what you absolutely love to teach on a global scale. So yes, it's been an incredible journey, and it took off with Udemy, and then I started the Psychic Healing Academy, and now have those higher level courses that go on there where I have that more elevated one-on-one business coaching and training and other things that I do, like the advanced tarot program and that kind of thing. And then I got into teaching tarot business and online business, which is a journey in itself. Never thought I would, when following my heart's joy with the tarot and healing, be teaching people about algorithms on YouTube. But I also, the joy of being online and taking your business and helping people with their businesses and helping people with their journey to be professional tarot readers or healers is that you are constantly being challenged. And I find that, it really aligns to my own journey that we are here as human beings to constantly be evolving our consciousness. And with that, you get super challenged when you are running a business, especially an online business. I mean, any business, but online in particular. So being able to know that when you're getting tested and challenged and being able to go into the deepest part of yourself to solve those challenges. That's been an incredible benefit and quite unexpected, not what I was expecting when I started this journey 15 years ago.
That is such an amazing segue into what we had sort of previously discussed about what we want to talk about today. First, I just have to say, I think I have every single one of your courses on Udemy, and then somehow found your advanced training. And I love your teaching style, and I love how direct and honest you are about what it is and what it isn't to you, because I look for teachers I want to know what to expect. Yeah. I want to know where you're coming from and what your beliefs within this system are, so that I can then decide and discern whether or not that aligns with how I show up in the world. And I really appreciate your teaching in that way. I was smiling and chuckling a little bit when you were saying, owning an online tarot business and owning a healing business and teaching people to thrive in their own businesses comes with a lot of your own challenges. And I had that smirk on my face because every time I run an event, like 2 weeks before the event or 2 months before the event, I have one of those spiritual 2x4s that comes in at me. And I have these lessons that just drop in my lap. And I'm like, okay, I'm in it right now. I'm going to look, because every time there's somebody or many people in the room who I need to have navigated it first so that I can hold space for them because they're in a similar thing. Do you find that true for you too?
Look, I can't tell you. So when I was doing in-person readings in Manly and Sydney, I can't tell you the amount of times that people would come in and see me, and I would be going through and processing a very deep issue, whether it be in my relationships or my work or abundance or whatever, and I just get a handle on it, and I just be like, okay, I've got this now and I'm nailing it. And then someone would come in, a client would come in, and they would have that exact problem, and I'd be like, hey, I'm your woman, I know exactly how to solve this. Yes, the cards are going to say it all, but I got some extra advice going on here.
Yeah.
If I'm anxious or if I've got my own stuff going on, then I cannot hold space for other people. And obviously, if you're in the midst of the worst crisis of your life, it can be very difficult and challenging. But I think it's a misconception to believe that healers and tarot readers don't have their own stuff going on, because we often do. And I think that's what makes us able to help and have empathy. Empathy is the key thing you need as a healer and a reader. And when you see someone in front of you and they're going through something like a separation or a heartbreak, or they're in love with someone and that person's not reciprocating, or, they're going through anything that is incredibly challenging for them and dealing with their powerlessness and their worthlessness, and you're like, hey, I've been there. I know this. I can help with this. Yeah. I can really hold space on the level of feeling what you're going through. And solutions will often come in that are not only intuitive solutions from spirits and guides and the universe, but they will come in from a practical experience too. So I actually think that's quite valuable.
I do too. I feel like our guides speak to us in language and experiences that we can understand, so that we can then, I would say, I'm translating the words that my guides know I understand, and then incorporating it or translating it to you in a way that you understand. And that happens through our conversation. There's the divine connection that happens, and then it sort of gets processed through my humanness, and then divine and human come out my mouth. And then they're sitting in the seat within the same experience. And I'm always like, I just need to remind you, if your intuition hits different than mine, let's talk about that. This isn't absolutes here, because I'm doing my own work too. And I think it's important to make that clear. So when you're doing your own work and you find yourself in the messiness, I think it's important to have discernment to know if you do have the capacity to hold space for someone else. Because I think it's unrealistic to think that we don't have our own stuff. We have our own shit we're dealing with. And for us to be perfectly healed is just unrealistic. But to know as a reader or as a healer, am I in a space where I have capacity to hold space for others? That's an important and ethical decision to make.
Yeah. And there's two kind of levels to that too. For me, there's the level of, do I energetically have the cup full enough to actually do, or am I just going to do? And I find this a lot, that you burn out very quickly when you are overgiving. I speak about that a lot on a lot of my courses, but when you are letting those boundaries down because you'll let you'll let trying to say this without saying rude, you'll let people get away with more. Like they'll want to extend the session longer that they haven't paid for, and then you'll kind of burn yourself out. And that often happens when you are at your most fragile. So they will come in, you will often be more flimsy in your boundaries when you are at your most fragile. So you do have to be really careful of that. That's definitely something to think about if you're going like, should I do this session today? If you've got someone booked, is it a worse thing for me to cancel and annoy them and inconvenience them, as it is for me to give a bad session because I know I'm going to be all over the place? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
But also, I think the other level of it is you've got to be careful. And I used to watch this. Like I said, I'm really fortunate because I did manage psychics in a shop. So I had like 7 or 8 different psychics I was dealing, probably more actually, that I was dealing with every week that I was managing. I got to see sometimes where I felt like they were projecting some of their experience. And like I could see, okay, I've got to be careful that when I'm doing a reading with someone and I'm empathizing way too much, that I'm not putting my experience onto them because they're a unique soul and they've got their own journey and set of beliefs. They've had their own childhood. They've had their own thing that's completely different to mine. And I can't just project all my negative, especially like what I'm, preconceiving is going on for them. Like I've got to let spirit and the cards tell the story without me sometimes. But then I also have to make sure that I'm not trying to push them in a direction that's not part of their soul journey.
Yeah. It's such a tricky dance.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like this beautiful dance where it's like, sometimes telling part of your story makes sense and is aligned. And sometimes it is a projection or an assumption, or like I've gotten really good at noticing, oh, hang on, I'm in a wound right now. Like what you just told me and what just came through, I need to let you know that I'm in a wound.
I'm triggered. Well, that's interesting that you let people know because I don't. I'm quite private and I do keep up that the feeling of, okay, is this, I do this thing of like, is this me or is this them? Is this my higher? And I do a lot more higher self tuning in with that one. That's a bit of a higher self exercise. Okay, they just had this experience that I had recently, and I've got to make sure that this is their experience, not me. Because I've been very hurt getting readings from people who have projected a whole lot of romantic stuff onto me. And then afterwards I've gone away and talked to like one of the other readers or something and they've gone, oh, they haven't got very good attitudes towards me and watch out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such an interesting thing because I'll sit there and I'll say, hang on, I'm in a wound. I need to get quiet and listen because it's just like I want to be honest about that, And I think it's so fascinating. So what do you do to fill your cup and to make sure that when you're showing up, because you're holding space for, 90,000 plus students, because once a student's always a student. They can choose to walk away for sure, but if they came back, you would still be there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like always. Like I've got students that I've taught so many years ago and they sort of show up and they say, I'm sorry, is it okay if I ask? I was, of course, from me, I'm here to help you now that you have been part of my journey and I've been part of your journey. Look, this is, like what we were talking about before we came on, how I said my new passion right now is really helping tarot readers and healers to make sure they have everything they need, because I think there's a real naive assumption, especially with this explosion of tarot going on TikTok and going on YouTube and the explosion of the online healer and the online reader, that you can just jump on and put stuff out there. Everyone's going to run in and buy it. And then, which as we know is far, far, far from the truth, and the truth about how long it really can take to build a business and to get recognition and to get income coming in regularly. And this will always challenge you on a monetary level if you haven't got your money stuff sorted. Like if you've had money stuff in every single job you've ever been in or your whole life, you've had negative money beliefs. And I talk about that in Manifesting Abundance for healers and psychics, the course I did with Miriam Castella. Like the whole thing about money blocks is people think, well, I'm just going to start my new career of passion and purpose, and then I won't have any money blocks anymore. When it's the opposite. Like when you are starting a new career, especially online, which is much, there's a whole different kettle of fish that you have to learn to be an online reader and an online healer. You really are pushing yourself into a level of survival and balancing survival with faith and trust and hope and passion and purpose, and something that I am becoming a little bit funny about, my new latest thing that's getting me a little bit irate, and I try not to get irritated too much with what other people are doing. Everyone does what they do. But this new thing, well, if I can do it, you can do it. And for me, I'm like, absolutely, please don't shame people by assuming your journey, a bit like what I said before, that your journey is exactly the same as theirs. Like for me, because I find that really confronting, because I'm like, you don't know what I've been through in this life, and to get my worth and self-love back, and to get my sense of power in who I am, and belief in what I can offer the world. Like so it's a feeling for me of, you really need to be incredibly prepared if you want to go on a journey of being a professional, that you have a whole big, massive set of tools in your toolbox, because you will get challenged. Because for me, that journey is, as I often talk about in my tarot courses, it's the fool's journey. It's like a movie. You're going through where you get setbacks and you've got to push through, and you've got the ghost, and you've got the ghost being, the thing that haunts you, that continually trips you up, that self-sabotage. All of those things are in there in your journey as a healer and a reader. I think there's very few readers that I've come across that I have taught when I say taught, I mean like seen them read and be part of their journey in a one-on-one level, that haven't had some serious trauma at some time in their life that they've had to work through, and that they haven't got those issues of powerlessness and worthlessness that they are continually working on. And so you need those tools. I mean, if people say to me, how do I attract more clients, and how do I do this and this? And I go, yeah, well, look, I can work with you on that. But I also want to make sure that you've got the foundations of your house very strong, because when it falls over, which it does, I mean, Oprah talks about you fail and you fail and you fail again. When that happens, and when you get challenged, you need to be able to take that time out, as you said, and just and I'm not someone who talks to people and says, you have to meditate every day, and you have to every day, and you have to get up at 5 a.m. the way I have this morning to talk to you.
Thank you for that, by the way.
You have to do this. For me, everyone's way of how they either exercise or move and connect with spirit, or just have a bit of time out, is completely different. And that's a really important thing to remember. You need to have the things that actually make you feel good. Whether it's a guided meditation, or for me, I don't know if you're on my Instagram channel, but I post photos of my sunrise walks, because I get up at 5 nearly every morning, just not because a book told me to do it, just my body does it. And I go for a walk and I take photos of the sunrise with my coffee, and that's my morning meditation. And then I come home and I start working, and I might sometimes separately meditate or meditate in the afternoon. But I've found that I'm someone who really needs those tools, because otherwise I will just burn out. I will just go. It's very easy when you're running a spiritual business to go from your intuitive heart self, so say your Queen of Cups in the tarot, to your really analytical mind, Queen of Swords, like to just be in the head, because online and working in a business is so cerebral. It's so in your head. And so you've got to keep coming back into your heart in different ways. And also, I think that's what you're alluding to in this video, I've always had a fantastic team of team. It makes me sound really important. No, but I've always had a whole lot of healers that I have met along the way that I turn to when I'm having a serious wobble. Like that to me is vital. They are my, as much as you need the people and I can give so many examples, but I know probably the biggest thing that my students face, as you've probably seen in the tarot group, in Tarot Card Success's private group, is that the amount of times when you're getting started that people will either go hostile, or they'll get really confrontational, or they'll come back and they'll want more, and just being able to not take that personally and not be able to feel that you're being attacked just because if someone leaves a bad review, like being able to, often people that are drawn to sensitive work, like, healing and reading are often very sensitive themselves. So being able to go, oh, okay, what is this challenging in me? And being able to overcome that. But also living with the fact that tarot and healing has always attracted a fair bit of cynicism and a fair bit of skeptical people trying to test you. When you go online, you're on a whole nother level. I mean, people are already wary of online. Like, I don't know about how you buy online, but for me, I'll look at a product, like say it's a hair product, and I will look at it 5 different times, and then I'll look at their website, and then I'll read their reviews, and then before I will commit $60 to a product that, and it's a thing of legitimizing who you are online. It takes a lot of work and effort, and the trust factor has to be built. And part of the journey is not taking it personally and trying to be coming up with new ideas about that creative spark when things aren't thriving or where things are going a bit backwards. And so having your healers to deal, like I have my own modalities and my own working with my own angels and guides, but sometimes you need to bring in the big guns, I call them, being other healers who can help with the journey. So, or for me, always have people you trust that you've worked with, and that'll change. You don't have to work with the same healer forever. I've worked with lots of different healers over many different years, depending on what I need. But have those tools to know that you're not going to be perfect at everything when you run a business in this sphere and in that space.
There are so many gems to the things that you just said, and I want to maybe kind of point them out as to how I heard them, and maybe it'll lead us to more conversation, or maybe it'll just offer like same information in a different way. I don't know. But you said where you started was basically, I love that you didn't just rattle off a list of things for people to do to help themselves. I love that your biggest message, it's one that I talk about all the time too. Your biggest message was find what brings you joy, find what makes your soul happy, find what lights you up, make it your practice, because my practice doesn't going to work for you. Sal's practice isn't going to work for me. Like, we have to find the things that work for us. And some of that takes some time and some dancing and like, oh, I thought that worked, but it turns out it didn't, but to be able to be creative and explore what works for you. And then I might find the tools that work for me and then try them at 5 a.m. and it turns out I needed them at 5 p.m. Like, sometimes it's not that it's a no, it's just not a no. It's not a yes in that moment or in that way. And so like finding your school, like I call it my soul care toolkit. I talk about that a lot with people. It's like, I need a soul care toolkit. So does everyone else. And if you have the toolkit in place with a really good knowledge of what's in it, then when you are wobbly or in a crisis or having a problem that you're struggling with, well, you have that list that you can even have written down so that you don't have to think about what you might need. You can go to your go-tos and see what one calls to you. And so I love that your answer was like, this is what works for me, but you have to find what works for you. Yeah. And then the other thing I love that you said is you talked about having a team of other people that you trust, that will hold space, call you on your bullshit, help you with your healing, and really challenge you to evolve, which brings me to the next thing you said, which was, we're always evolving. It's not the same things that work forever. The same people might not be your healing team. The same tools that work for you might change. And it doesn't mean it's not working anymore and you're doing something wrong. It actually usually means you're doing something right. And you get to step into the new next thing that is going to hold more different space for you in a way that's aligned with right now. So, I just love everything you just said.
Well, I think it is important to consider the healing journey as not a chore. Like, when I feel like one of my like a healer I've worked with for quite a long time, and I'm just either intuitively feeling, or I pull a card and I'm like, I don't feel like they're going to be able to help me with this issue. And I go out and find someone else, or I seem to attract someone else. I'm always so excited and fascinated by what it is they're doing. I'm like, oh, what are you up to? How do you do that? And it's my little metaphysical detective in me that goes, oh, I love this. This is awesome. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to run off and study it. It's just that I get fascinated by new ways that are evolving of healing people. And I'm fascinated by, if I have to say one tool, I guess, it's definitely writing, journaling stuff out. Again, no pressure to do it, but even myself, when I'm in the midst of a crisis and I'm in the midst of a cathartic nadir, a very good friend of mine, Kevin, used to say it to me all the time, the nadir, it's when you just hit rock bottom and you just can't find a way out of it. And I sometimes hilariously, my first tool will be just to say, that's it, I'm doing nothing today. I'm lying on the couch. I'm watching Harry Potter. I'm going to have chocolate and I don't care. I'm doing nothing for nobody else except me. I'm turning my phone off and that can be my spiritual tool of the day. But the journaling practice for me has been something that, and by journaling, I'm really I just have cheap books that I get from the supermarket and just fill up. And sometimes I do it first thing in the morning. Sometimes I do it in the middle of the day. Sometimes I do it when I'm feeling it. Sometimes I might not do it for a week, but it's something that I think puts on paper and gets out the gremlins. I guess that's a good word for it. And then I go, I know where this is coming from. Okay,
Yeah, and I think that too. I mean, I'm not a person who journals all the time, but if I'm in it, I'm just gonna say, like, if I'm in it, whatever it is, your biggest pick a challenge. Sometimes the only way I can get to the stuff that I'm blocking or kind of keeping tucked out, just out of sight, is by writing it out without thinking. I just start writing. And then all of a sudden I look down and I'm like, oh, and there it is. And then I'll have the emotional release, or I'll have the aha moment, or I'll have like okay, well, I feel better. That's out of my energy body now. So, and it sometimes is just that simple. And other times it's like, oh, I just opened the floodworks and this is going to take a hot second for me to move through whatever just released. So as much as I very much resisted writing for a while. And over time, it just became a tool that works.
Yeah, look, and can I say, I'm someone who I really, really loathe shaming anyone who gets told, try this, and then they feel bad about it because it's not working. There are times when I will go, there is no way in anything on any planet on earth am I going to write right now. I don't want to talk or think about this stuff. Then I need to go do Pilates or something. Sometimes it's like I don't want to regurgitate any of it right now, but then sometimes it's just all coming out. And it is about trusting yourself in the healing journey. I think that's the thing, allowing yourself to be, if I think about, like the worst parts of, 2023 for a lot of people was a very challenging year. I know for me, it was probably one of the worst on records, with just external events impacting upon me. And I think at the very bottom in that catharsis is just allowing yourself to have it. You know, like we live in this world where allowing yourself to just be as miserable and upset and devastated and exhausted and full of anguish as you can be in that moment, if you have that space to do it. Like, you're not on a bus, like you can actually do it in your private room or wherever you are, and allowing it and not shaming yourself for doing it. Like that, to me, is a huge part of it, is being able to go in and recognise that I'm just being human right now. This is my humanity.
There's so much grace in that. Yeah. I'm with you on the shame thing, because I grew up, I have a lot of like guilt and shame are two really big things that can come in for me. I catch myself in those old patterns. And the difference is now, I think, is like I've chosen to look at a lot of different things, like different, and explore what may or may not work for me. And because I've built the muscle of looking, I don't go to guilt and shame anymore. It's just like I'm observing to see what might work. And then I get to choose which one might work. And if it doesn't work, okay, well, I'll try another thing. And I don't even get hung up on the fact that it didn't work. Sometimes, like you said, I'm supposed to be miserable and I hope it's not on a bus, but even if it's on a bus, oh, well, like maybe I got my tissues out and I'm bawling on a bus. So be it.
Well, I've done it for Pilates. I've been there on the reformer machine, tears streaming down my face, sort of turning my head away from the instructor as I'm pushing my legs out and my arms in a strap, just half sobbing and being like, okay, well, I just need to stretch that out, and letting it all out, and being open and honest with yourself that this is just what I need right now. Yeah, like that's a particularly powerful thing to do for yourself. Just feeling like, okay, this is part of my journey, is that I'm experiencing. I mean, I don't know if have you done the Boost Your Psychic Gifts with EFT tapping course?
I haven't done that one yet.
No. So that teaches for me how to cope in situations that are challenging you, like what the deeper beliefs are. So tapping for me has always been something I've loved because it does, like I can be tapping it so quickly and easily, and then suddenly I'll go, oh, this is what this is. This is where this is coming from. Okay, tap, 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 tap. Let's get that out. And then I know, and I can kind of go on my way a bit, like the insights that come in, especially if you're someone who's not very naturally intuitive, it can be good. Like, or if you're blocked because you're so upset, you can tap, 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 tap and get it and be like, oh, okay, I know what this is and why I do this, or where it's coming from or why I'm attracting it. And part of that is just, okay, that's a coping tool that I use for certain circumstances because I need to know what the belief is. And I've been working on it for so long and the belief's not coming out. And what's the belief? So I can, look at it, shine awareness on it. And that's that great thing I always talk about, that people often don't want to go there on their journeys because they're afraid of what they're going to dig up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think I don't have time to dig this up.
Yeah.
And the problem with that, and again, no shaming if you're in that position, like this is a time crazy, busy, crazy world, but time poor, crazy world. But if you are not digging stuff up, then you're often going to just, as we know, repeat it and dig yourself in worse and worse and worse and get more and more sad and depressed and want to drink more bottles of wine and take more whatever and, grind your teeth more and get more physical ailments. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to stop and put some petrol in my car and, and put in a service of my car and put it, the engine and lubricate it and everything that needs to be done so that I can keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point. Because like for me, I definitely used to be really great at catastrophizing. And for me, actually, when I look, it's not as bad as I dreamed it up because of how I showed up. I'm not saying that's true for everyone, but like in my experience of my healing journey, me resisting the things that I thought were going to be so terrible actually felt amazing once I looked and let them go. It was just like this, oh, okay, I feel like lighter and brighter and like this heavy weight has been taken out of this piece of my body now so that it can be replaced with light and flow that had been blocked for so long that I couldn't function properly anymore. So, and again, sometimes we need to be in that pause of just like, it's not time yet. And when it is time for you, find the people who can hold space. People, like I'm comfortable talking to people who know what I'm talking about when I say I didn't want to look at it because I was too afraid. Because I know that you can hold the space for me because you also understand what it feels like to be too scared to look. And so find those people that resonate with you, whoever that is. I don't think any of us are meant to do it alone. And I think we're the only ones who can do it for ourselves. So it's like this weird duality of we need support on our journey so that we don't go down those rabbit holes of shame and guilt and old patterns that we used to believe or that we sometimes still are stuck in. Yeah. And that so that we can hold space for each other in our healing journeys so that it's an easier life on the other side of the looking in some weird way. And yet that doesn't mean that it never comes around because it's over and over and over again. I get thumped, it feels like, right? It's like, oh, there's another thing bubbling up. Oh, here's another thing bubbling up.
That layer of the onion. Like sometimes I always find if you're laughing at it, you're doing a good job, like.
Yeah, 100%.
Sometimes you can be like, look at, you couldn't make this stuff up.
I say it all the time. I'm like, you cannot make this shit up. I say it all the time. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So then you just get to look. Yeah. I had a therapist tell me one time, she was like, you use laughter and humor as a coping mechanism in a really healthy way. And I was like, yeah, I know. I don't think I would still be here on this planet if I didn't have that tool. It has been a lifesaver for me.
Absolutely. Like it's, like and you can't always do it. And again, no shaming anyone who can't do it, but the moments we all cope differently. And, the moments where you're being hammered and hammered and hammered and you feel like I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so exhausted, I'm so, and then something happens and then you're like, you just start laughing. You're just like, that's. Yeah.
Well, and like what you just described exactly, like what I felt in my body when I started to giggle with what you said, like there is something about laughter that brings a surrender. There's an acceptance that happens for me. It's like I just laugh and I go, okay, my hands are in the air. There's nothing else I can do. I have to laugh. And that is a form of surrender and acceptance. And it's like, all right, well, now that I'm done laughing, what are my next steps? How do I go from here? Who is my team that can hold the space for me? Because I know I can't, nor do I want to do it alone,
Yeah.
and maybe that's not giving myself enough credit. Maybe I can, but I don't think we're supposed to. I really do think we need help.
Yeah, look, again, well, and I mean, there's two good things about not doing it alone. The first is you're supporting other businesses and people that are trying to help. We need more healers in the world. We need more readers. We need people who really want to help heal. This is a huge, important function of so you're financially supporting people, which is great. It always feels good to support other people's businesses. And the other thing is, look, I think one of the challenges is when you are really going through a healing crisis or you're going through something that is just too overwhelming that you feel like you can't deal with and you need to turn to someone else, is then you are surrendering it to someone else. I mean, you still have to do the work, but you're not doing the work all on your own and being worried you're doing it the wrong way or this isn't working, it's not coming through. Like, I've often found one of the most powerful beliefs that I have consistently worked on is no matter what I do, it never gets better. And this is a really big thing. And this is, we could go on about capitalism pushing us to not being enough. There's a whole story, but often that childhood thing that no matter how perfect we try to be or how hard we work or what we give to somebody, it's never going to be enough. And no matter what I do, it's not going to improve. Or no matter what I do, I can't fix it. And when you start feeling like that's how your life's looking, it is good to bring someone else in because they can often just lift off if they are a good, whatever it is, your modality of choice, whether it be kinesiology or, any kind of healing modality, Reiki, they can often just lift off that bit of you that feels like it's so battered down by trying to shift and move and heal, that it lifts it off and gives you the space and the strength and the empowerment to go, okay, now I can move forward. Now I know what this is. Now I can, do things differently. And that's, as we all know, I think with that healing journey, you know that you are healing when you're starting to react different and you're starting to do things different and you're starting to not go into catharsis as much. You're starting to be like, okay, I can deal with that. You parent yourself better. Yeah. Better parent to yourself. But I will say something, if you don't mind, something that I know I've definitely been processing a lot lately and working with a lot lately is being a woman in my 40s and I grew up with lots of different friends and I've got lots of close people to me. I'm lucky. I'm very close to my family. I do have that. But I've also found there is a bit of a solitary nature to this healing journey in the way that as you start shifting more and more stuff, you realize, okay, I've attracted certain people into my life that are holding a mirror up to me. So I really need to resist the need to run out and tell them everything I'm doing and everything I'm to heal myself, because I want to make sure, it's my unique soul journey. And I just want to make sure I'm not doing that to not get approval, but to sort of self-sabotage, and maybe their thoughts are going to impact upon me. Maybe if they're cynical about healing, or maybe if they are, that they've got a bit of issues around you, that, stuff that they either don't believe in you, or there's just a power dynamic between you guys that's a bit uncomfortable. So I found I became very, very sacred about my healing journey. So I wasn't often sharing with people even close to me. And that went against, the girlfriend thing of you tell you when you're growing up, and you become in your 20s and 30s, you tell all your girlfriends all the worst things that are happening to you and you all commiserate about it over a bottle of wine and go through a thing together that, and that support network is very, very important. But I feel like for me coming into my 40s, it has been a lot more like, okay, how can I've got to trust that they're on a different journey to me. And I really probably need to only be sharing this journey with people who are absolutely 100% open-minded and can hold space for it, as you said, whether that be
in that sacred circle.
Yeah. And to Yeah, that's been something that's shifted in my age, definitely, that I felt that I'm very blessed that I have people that love me and that I love very much, but I'm also now a lot more solitude, the hermit in the tarot, going within and to heal things rather than broadcasting. I guess that's the best way to put it. I don't broadcast what's going on to the world. I might say throw a snippet in there, but I will not sort of go deep into how this is my healing journey and what I'm doing, because I feel like someone once said to me, like, when you're writing a book, for example, like, and you haven't written the book yet, but the second you start telling everyone you're writing a book and you start telling everyone what the plot is, it's like a part of the magic dissipates. It's like a part of that energy goes out there, because people might start going, oh, that's a dumb plot, or, oh, writers never make any money. And they might even not even be saying it. They might just be thinking it.
Yeah.
And we sense energy. And so we start, we have our own self-doubts, and it starts sounding maybe the plot's not as good as it was in our head. And I feel like the healing journey can be a bit like that, like keep the magic within. I mean, obviously in this time of really tragic, like way too many people taking their lives because they don't feel like they've got support. There's, like, reach out for support, for help. There's a place for that, but also be discerning about the people that are around you and they love and what their beliefs are, and that you're not, what's the word I'm looking for? Crushing your own soul journey by either seeking approval or going into value stuff, with people. Like, if there's someone who maybe you look up to a lot, or like you feel like they've done better than you or whatever, it brings stuff out in you, then just maybe keep it a bit more sacred.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece of it. I think it's a beautiful piece of it. And I think the people that have known us the longest sometimes are in our old patterns with us. And so they can't even get to accuracy for us or with us,
Yeah.
And so I love that concept of having a sacred circle or a sacred team. And I remember talking about this, and I did yoga teacher training in like 2015 and 16. And I remember talking about, there were just certain things we talked about where we would create sort of like sankalpas, like sacred vows to ourselves that we wanted to work on. And one of the things that we talked about was that energy is stronger and more powerful within you when it's sacred to you and you're not sharing it with the world. Because every time you speak it out into the world, it loses some of that power, some of that impact, some of that energy. And not that there won't ever be a time to share it, but sometimes when you're right in the moment, it's more about being sacred to you and your really, sacred circle, your team that's helping you with the discernment and the healing, versus I think we're human. We so easily slip into those patterns of looking for external validation or knowing that you're doing it right, or like even a form of avoidance sometimes can sneak in so quickly, just because we're comfortable in those places. And I don't know how your journey has been. And again, I don't know how everybody else's journey looks. This is just my experience. So this isn't like me telling you how it should be. But every time I heal or have a healing moment or a healing opportunity, is maybe the way I like to see it now. If I just totally lost my download. It came in and then it went out. I don't know. It had to do with going.
Or you're finding yourself, you're evolving, or you're finding yourself stronger in certain circumstances.
And I find that if I find I can get really sneaky with my avoidance and how I want to like skirt going into what I'm resisting. And it's shorter period of time for me now, but I definitely get clever in how I avoid doing the thing that I know is bubbling to the surface and how I do that. And that wasn't exactly what the download was, but that was a really funny one because it like came in and then it just popped right out when I started talking about it, which tells me there's probably something actively going on right now.
It's like, not quite with that.
And I'm like, not ready to talk about that.
Not yet. Look, I think, and the way we're doing it now, like this is, I'm not sitting here talking now about my current life crises or what's going on. It's like, oh, okay, we're sharing the information with the world and helping it in, after it's all happened. And how you've learned and grown and evolved, like that's really powerful to do. But I agree with you. I think when you're in it, it's like try to keep it in it. And I just had a download too, that for the reason that because And you probably know this yourself because you're trying to stay as positive as you can, but you know that you actually have to face negativity. Like, you know, we all know now, we've all done enough work to know that just by positive affirmations and pretending to smile and faking it as we're making it, we're kind of not really honouring the journey and the trauma and not really processing it. It just sort of buries it deeper. But when we share with people, like other people that are people that are close to us or our friends, or we're telling others about it, it can be hard not to go negative. And I feel like, I know that's an interesting story, but it's, for me, I found what's interesting when you're in the middle of a healing crisis or a healing journey is that you are trying to stay positive for yourself, but going through those emotions and being in anguish or being angry or being whatever. But as soon as you start telling other people that are not necessarily, you know, on the same page as you, or they're, you know, so lots of people who maybe don't, as I said before, don't have your beliefs, they might be like, well, that's terrible that that person did that. You need to go and do this. And they start, you know, And then you're like, and you're like, well, no, I feel like I'm kind of handling this. And then you need to, you know, that, and look, as those of you who know me, I grew up in Byron Bay, which is the, you know, the Laguana beach and the Glastonbury of Australia. And, you know, this thing of speaking your truth to everyone at all the time, this can have a bit of a tremendous toll. Like,
yeah. Discernment is such a powerful thing.
Yeah. Discernment is also good. If you want to open up a whole batch of wounds with someone from your past, then just be aware that that's going to be a batch of wounds that are all going to come out, flying out, skeletons flying out and knocking you over from the closet. So being honouring of your own time and space.
Yeah. I don't remember if I said this before, but this might be what I was getting at before, is that I don't think I've ever had a healing opportunity where it wasn't challenging. Like, it's easy to be laughing and, you know, even sharing it with your friends and stuff, but that's all surface level and it doesn't take you anywhere. It's almost like that positivity that sort of finds a way to avoid actually going where you were on your way to, but then you sort of stopped it with the distractions of the other things. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be uncomfortable. That's what it is. That's what healing is. It doesn't stay that way forever. But it also doesn't, like, once you quote unquote heal, it doesn't mean it's gone forever either. Something can still come forward and reopen that wound in a new and different way. And then you're looking at it again in a new and different way. Yeah. And you have a different challenge.
Yeah. And you might be a little bit like, oh, I can't believe I'm back here again, Groundhog. Yes. But it's like, okay, sometimes that's good because you can be like, okay, well, I got through this before. I know I can do it. You know, I've been through it before. And, you know, I think that gift you can give to the world is to go, and like segueing back to what I was talking in the beginning, is if you're going through some stuff and you're also someone who wants to go on a big path in this lifetime and take some risks and leaps of faith and do some big things with your life, then, you know, that's actually just part of the process. And just, you know, go, okay, that's just it. I'm just, you know, I've decided to do this in this lifetime. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And, you know that you are actually just equipping yourself to be a more extraordinary version of you. And that's what you're doing. You know, like I've seen you give readings. You're amazing. You know, you're an incredible reader. Like, you know, so that gift of what you've obviously been through can show up in that, in that process. So to not shame yourself, again, without repeating myself, if you're going through a healing crisis, because I feel like the value is, as I said, you don't have to necessarily go out and tell all your friends you're going through it, but you can one day share that. And I often found with my clients when I was doing one-on-ones, I'd see certain guides or angels that represented to me that this person was going to be a healer, or they were going to be someone that would be, and when I say, look, to clarify, when I talk about you're a healer, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go and do Reiki, or you're going to, you know, you can be a healer as a nurse. You can be a healer as a childcare worker who works with children. Like, healers are such a broad spectrum of what we are. And for me, it's like when I see that energy on someone that they are going to do somehow embrace that. I always go, okay, you're on a journey. There's going to be you got some fun coming up. There's some plot twists going on that are going to go on for you. The worthy of the best Netflix series.
Yeah.
And run with that. And also, but that, as we said, that will give you that compassion. And that. So, so there has been times, and this may sound funny, and this is just the pragmatic part of me, I guess, who, I might be in the midst of something really deep and I'll be like, I'm going to talk about this in my book one day. I'm going to do a course on this. And then just, you put that to the side and then go back through what you're going through. There's that feeling of, being extraordinary because you are willing to go in and look at the stuff.
And I think the content you create, to circle back to writing, in and of itself is healing. I mean, anytime I've created any content, I find myself going, oh, there's something new I haven't experienced within this particular thing yet. This is pretty cool. I just find it fascinating how things come up.
Yeah. And well, again, I think that's, the creative process comes from exploring your emotions. I mean, artists are very emotional people, that's, so exploring them and going in there, that will help you if any of you out there listening that want to start a business or want to do anything like that. It actually helps with the creative process to have these big healing journeys as well.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit funny because I have these moments where I'll be working with clients and I see them right on the cusp of that fool's journey and then I get really excited for them. I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Super sucky for a while. There's going to be some stuff. And I know this is a weird thing for me to say, but I'm really excited for you. And I just need to remind you, don't do this alone. We're here, you're choosing it, and that's amazing. And it's beautiful. And I'm ridiculously excited for you because I know from personal experience what can be on the other side. And, not everybody chooses this, and it's a brave, courageous soul who does. And I think it's okay if you don't choose it. And I think it's okay if you do choose it. And I think it's okay if you pause choosing it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I think your soul gets to choose when, where, how, if, and that's all good because it's yours. It's your journey. I think it's so cool.
That. And that's for me such a great quality to have in when you're working with clients is that positivity of, this is going to get rough, but you can do it. It's going to be okay. It's, the fear that people have when there's a dark journey ahead or where there's whether it be negative tarot cards or you can see that there's some stuff that's going to come up, to just be like, this is, we become the best versions of ourselves when we do go through this. So you're going to imagine what you're going to look like this time in a year. You're going to thriving and shining. But that positivity of nurturing your clients in that way, that is definitely the best. Well, that's what I love in my healers. That's what I love when they. Whereas the doom and gloom stuff and I'm not so good with that.
No, I feel like attracts like. So if you live in doom and gloom, you're just going to get more doom and gloom. So it's hard to.
And that's, as you've probably experienced in my courses with the reading and your own journey with working with clients is, there is going to be challenges. There is in everybody's life that comes and sees you. Bad cards will show up, they're gonna show up, and
they're not coming for the reading because everything's perfect.
I know. Well, that's it. They wouldn't be there in the first place if there weren't bad things, and sometimes bad things take some time to resolve, and that is again circling back to being good at what you do and being resilient at what you do and wanting to continue doing it through the hard times is being able to trust yourself that, okay, I'm giving this person a whole lot of bad news, especially if it's about a relationship, which, like in my love readings course, I talk a lot about, overwhelmingly people come and see you for relationship stuff. Why hasn't this person contacted me? I really feel a connection with them. Why aren't they, when will they call me? All that stuff. And that anxiety that comes around that. And it can be, okay, this doesn't look like it's working out very well for you. So how can I put a positive spin on it, but also honor you and not, sugarcoat it and tell you what you feel like you want to hear, but tell you what you need to hear, but also not have you slinking out of here crying and sobbing and feeling like you want to throw yourself off a cliff like that. It's finding the dance between those things of helping according to their highest good. And because often, as we all know, in relationships, we have craved people and been infatuated with people and believed that person was the one. And then a year later, we look back and go, what on earth was going on for me that I thought that person was the one? But when you're in the moment of that healing crisis and you go and see a reader, you're like, please, is this going to work out? Is this going to work out? And, so being able to balance the negative news and without making people have more anxiety, I guess, as you know, I've always been someone who teaches, please don't ever tell people this is what is going to happen to you. You don't have a choice in this happening to you. Like, that's not at all the journey. But learning how to do that definitely takes a process.
Yeah, it's a part of the holding space and having it be a sacred practice. I think that's so important. And I love how mindfully you show up and how mindful you are in your teachings and how you don't leave a lot to guessing as far as like where you're coming from in your foundation. And I think that's why I have a hard time trusting when I'm looking for new practitioners and teachers and people I'm going to welcome into my healing journey, And I think that's one of the things that I really was drawn to most about you is that you are solid in your foundation. You're consistent with how you show up. You're authentic in your messaging and it feels congruent and integrated and true. And for someone like me who feels all that stuff, it's such a huge blessing to find someone like that. And so I thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate how you show up. I was super skeptical about the online thing. Like you said, I was just like, meh, whatever. But I think it was like the very first class I ever bought was probably on sale. And I was like, well, I would like to dive deeper into this. And I've gone kind of as far as I can go with my world around me right now. So let's just play. And I just kept playing and playing and playing, another class bot. And then I got an email about the advanced certification. I'm like, I don't need, quote unquote, need another certificate. And yet I'm super called to this certificate. And I really want to spend this time with you learning. So thank you for all the different ways that you show up and make it accessible. Because having the one-to-one opportunity later on my journey with you felt aligned and congruent and like it was supposed to be. And I am so grateful that I found you or you found me or our guides were up there working together to bring us together. And that you said yes to this podcast because I feel like so many things were discussed about how people can show up in a way to most support themselves for their best and highest good. And I think if more people in the world showed up in that way where they were connected for their best and highest good with a support team around them that was trusted and supportive and could hold space with intention and capacity, is a beautiful thing and would change a lot. The ripple effect is real. So that feels like a great place to wrap up. Do you have like another little, like kind of a final message that you want to share?
Look, again, thank you so much, Michelle. Like, as I'm in awe of Michelle and what she's doing here with this beautiful podcast. And when I was watching her do her readings, and I thought, oh my goodness, woman's got such beautiful energy. And I loved, how I'm always in awe of watching people read that I haven't seen read before and seeing them do what they do, like work their magic, so to speak, and see it and being like, oh, she's really special. She's doing this. Like I can see, I get excited inside me, like watching this. It's almost like I can just go, ooh. And yeah, look, I feel like I just want to thank you for holding this space for people, and hopefully this has brought some insight or hope or inspiration for people. Again, especially in this world where we're all just trying to do the very best we can, but often finding ourselves tripped up and often finding ourselves maybe not living up to the constantly, again, as I often talk about, the challenges of overcoming the social media addiction and the comparing ourselves more and more and more, whether it's wanting to start a business or whether it's whatever it is we're trying to achieve in life, is being able to Just honor that you are an individual on your own soul journey. It's different for everyone. And if you are anyone out there who is trying to either learn tarot or intuitive development or healing, and you feel like it's not gelling or setting, or that's you. That's okay. That's beautiful. Like, you may find your best challenge and your best insights to doing that. Like, that might be, there's a misconception that you run off, and that's why I'm transparent, that you will run off and do a course and suddenly you'll be the most psychic person in the world. It's like, no, like, you got a journey ahead of you, baby.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yes, thank you for holding this space, for everyone who's listening, and for me. And thank you so much for coming aboard and trusting me with your time and trusting me with your money to help you on your journey. Thank you.
I highly recommend it. How do people find you? That's the easiest way for you on both Udemy and also on your Psychic Healing Academy. How can they contact you if they want to explore their own journey?
So definitely straight to my website's the easiest. So saljade.com, saljade.com. That's probably the easiest because that has all my Udemy courses and it has the advanced course, and then it has
cool.
And then on my socials, so Sal Jade Tarot is on Instagram, and Sal Jade Tarot is my Facebook page too. So there are also other ways if you like to connect on social. So they're the easiest ways to find out if what I do is something that resonates with you and can help you on your journey.
Beautiful. Thank you. I have one last question that's going to seem a little weird. I have to ask,
I've been a teacher for 23 years.
I know. And it's funny, people say that to me too. I'm like, there's no such thing as weird. You're not going to weird me out. It doesn't matter what you say. But are you backlit right now, or am I just seeing your aura?
Oh, no, I'm not backlit.
You are so bright.
Oh, really?
You are so bright. I don't always see auras, but like, you are like bright. So I was like, look at her. That's always my sign that like my teachers are doing their work, when I can just like, their auras are super bright. I was like, oh, she's good.
No, I'm not backlit. I'm actually just a little daylight.
Backlit right now.
The Australian sun coming up.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, I think that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much, Sal. Bye. Be you every day.
Thanks, honey. Bye.